We always hear tales about our ancestors, their stories and beliefs, unfinished works, unspoken words. What happens when you're trapped in their dimension? Would you be saved or trapped forever? This story is about the Dartmoor family. The Dartmoors are the most wealthy family in the town. They were residents of the Dartmoor mansion. The heir of the family, Lucinda Dartmoor, is the only child of the family. She was not permitted to leave the compound. Lucinda has spent her entire life in the mansion and has no idea what's going on in the outside world. She always felt loneliness because she has no siblings nor friends. Even though she spent time in the mansion, there were some restrictions that prevented her from visiting certain areas of the mansion. Lucinda grew up hearing her mother's stories about their ancestors. She is well versed in her family's history. She even spent the majority of her time in the mansion's library, researching her ancestors. On her 16th birthday, Lucinda's parents gave her a ruby necklace from a family heirloom. They claimed the necklace belonged to one of her ancestors. They have kept it for many years, but they have decided to give it to Lucinda. When Lucinda received the gift, she was overjoyed. She noticed the necklace was absolutely beautiful and stunning when she looked at it. Lucinda decided to wear it all the time because she was drawn to the necklace. Lucinda was sleeping in her room that night. With all the excitement she had on her birthday, she became exhausted. At the stroke of midnight, the ruby necklace Lucinda was wearing began to glow, but it quickly faded. Lucinda awoke. She was perplexed as to what had caused her to awaken. She became aware of whispers coming from outside her room. Lucinda decided to go outside. Since she was already awake, Lucinda emerged from her room. She looked in both directions and saw no one. She then heard the whispers once more. Lucinda was drawn to the whispers. Out of curiosity, she continued to walk towards the sound. She arrived at the east side of the mansion after a few minutes of walking. Lucinda has never visited this part of the mansion. She realized her parents had forbidden her from going to certain areas of the mansion, including the east side. Lucinda did not want to disobey her parents, so she returned to her room. The next day, Lucinda was thinking about what happened last night. During breakfast, she asked her parents if they had heard any whispers last night. Her parents told her no, and asked why. Lucinda mentioned hearing whispers last night, but she did not mention following them to the east side of the mansion. Lucinda's parents said she was most likely dreaming. Lucinda agreed to what her parents told her, but she knows deep down that it was not a dream. Lucinda continued to think about the east side. She wondered what could be in there. She was interested in learning more about the east side. Lucinda went to the mansion's library in search of the mansion's map. She thought that she could know at least what lies in the east side. Lucinda searched for the map for hours, but failed to find it. She kept looking without giving up. She then discovered an old book. This book was unlike anything she had ever read before. The book was completely ruined on the outside. When Lucinda opened the book, some pages fell out due to the poor binding. Lucinda gathered the fallen pages and noticed an artwork on one of them. It was the map of the mansion. Lucinda breathes a sigh of relief and examines the map more closely. She noticed that the map had no sign of the east side of the mansion. It's as if the east side doesn't exist. Lucinda felt strange about it, which piqued her interest in the east side even more. Lucinda refused to ask her parents about it. She doubted her parents would tell her, because they forbade Lucinda from entering restricted areas of the mansion. Lucinda was looking out the window late at night. The moon shone brightly from the dark skies. Lucinda was thinking how she could learn more about the East Side. She eventually got tired and went to bed. Exactly at midnight, the ruby necklace began to glow again, but this time it did not fade immediately. When Lucinda awoke again, she noticed the necklace was glowing. She was surprised to see the necklace, which is beautiful when it glows. Suddenly, Lucinda heard the whispers again. Lucinda stepped outside her room and looked in the direction of the whispers. Without thinking twice, Lucinda followed the whispers. She was back at the East Side. Lucinda's palms were sweating as she debated whether or not to enter the East Side. Her ruby necklace suddenly began to glow brighter. Lucinda got puzzled and wondered if the necklace was connected to whatever was on the East Side. Lucinda decided to break her parents' rule and enter the East Side. After getting in, Lucinda saw a long dark hallway. At the end of the hallway, she noticed a door. Lucinda walked through the hallway to get to the door. As she walked, she noticed the walls were all run down, and the candles in the candle holder were melted. Strange thoughts raced through Lucinda's head. When she finally got to the door, she heard the whispers again. Lucinda opened the door slowly, and she entered the room. The only thing she saw in the room was a huge mirror on the wall. The mirror was somehow different, an unusual mirror. Lucinda moved closer to the mirror, and her ruby necklace began to glow even more. When she touched the mirror, Lucinda was sucked into the mirror. Before Lucinda could realize, Lucinda found herself in a dark room. The room was completely empty. She turned around to look in the mirror, but the mirror was gone. An eerie feeling rushed through Lucinda. She had no idea if she was still in the mansion. Lucinda walked out the room and saw an altar. It was spooky. The altar was full of skulls and lit candles. At the center of the altar, there was a woman's painting. Lucinda stared at the painting, wondering who the woman in it was. While looking at it, Lucinda noticed the woman's name at the bottom of the painting. It says, Morgana Darkmoor. Lucinda was taken aback when she read the last name. She realized the woman in the painting had to be one of her ancestors. Lucinda found it odd, because she had never come across anyone named Morgana when researching her ancestors, nor her parents had ever mentioned the name. Lucinda also noticed something strange. The woman in the painting was wearing the same ruby necklace Lucinda wore. Suddenly, she heard the whispers again. Lucinda looked around but couldn't find anything. When she faced the altar again, Lucinda was stunned. The woman from the painting stood in front of her. She was dressed in a red robe that looked like it had been soaked in blood. Her nails were long, and her hair was long. Her face was scorched, and she was clutching a staff, encrusted with leaves and roots. Her staff was topped with a massive scarab. The woman appears to be an evil witch on the whole. Lucinda screamed and ran outside from the altar room. She kept running down a long hallway. There were no doors or windows for her to escape. Lucinda then noticed a door. She ran towards it and opened it. She entered into a crypt and saw an old coffin. Lucinda shivered in fear. Tears ran down her cheeks. Suddenly, the coffin opened, revealing a terrifying hand with long nails from the coffin. The figure who awoke from the coffin was the witch Lucinda had seen earlier. In the blink of an eye, the witch sucked Lucinda's soul. Lucinda was struggling. As she was floating when the witch sucked her soul, she could not move or scream. Lucinda collapsed to the ground. Her lifeless body was decaying into a rotten skeleton. Some says our ancestors look after us, but in Lucinda's case, her soul was taken by a witch spirit, who turned out to be her ancestor. If Lucinda had received Morgana's ruby necklace, would she have been safe from the evil spirit? Or was she somehow fated to die in the grasp of Morgana's ghost?